We looked at displaced elements and exploded views, and as I look at the projects that you're developing in different classes, there are additional tools that I'd like to talk to you about in this video. One of those is creating a building section that's in perspective. And so first I'd like to show you this project here. There's the roof by extrusion that we know how to do from working with roofs. If I change the transparency under graphic display options, you'll see that the trusses follow the profile of this roof that was created. So if I select the roof and I pick Edit Profile, see this, the sketch becomes the profile for the extension. So if you did work on a project that had this unique truss that you've created, you can use roof by extrusion to place that roof. The other thing I wanted to point out to you is that if you had a roof that also curved, maybe this went back and also curved, you could create a path that went along that curve and a profile of the roof so that the profile would follow that path. And as a reminder, if you do use a path and a profile, the profile is not just one line like the roof by extrusion. The profile would be this entire closed shape, the top and the bottom here of the roof. So I'm going to turn the transparency off now. In the level 1 view, I'll go ahead and create a camera view. And in this camera view, we have this crop region, but we also can turn on the section box in the view properties. So here I'm going to put a check mark in section box and pick apply. And now if you roll the wheel back a little bit, you should be able to see that section box. I can then select the section box, and this is kind of the tricky part. We need to find the arrows that represent the front and the back views of the section box. And this one here is going to give you the front edge of the section box so that we can start to bring it back a little ways and start to create here a section box kind of crop of this view. So if I come back far enough, I'll find a point where it becomes a section that's through my building, but still a perspective. I can give it a little bit more depth by just using the section box to control how much I'm seeing of the section. So once you work with these control grips, you can decide on how much of your building is showing and if it's going to have a lot of depth and where the section cut is going to occur within your building. And now we have this crop region. If we wanted to use that to kind of crop out the view, we could do that. We need to type in VG and go to the Annotation Categories tab in order to turn off your section box. If you turn it off over here in Properties, it will turn off the section that we just created. And then we can turn off also the view of this crop region, the visibility of it. We can take the check mark out here and pick apply. So now we have the beginning of a perspective section, and we have to decide on a few things. When we use the shaded view, we can take the earth large scale out by going to the Massing and Site tab and clicking on the small arrow next to Model Site and picking here under the section cut material, instead of showing the earth, we can take the pattern, the cut pattern out. So we'll just put no pattern here and pick OK. And now it becomes kind of a nice color for presentation. It's a personal choice, I suppose, and the crop region can be changed also. Unfortunately, in this view, in this kind of camera view, we have less options than in an actual section that I'll show you in a few minutes. But we can change some things like the detailed lines. If I use a coarse, it's going to give me a little different view as the medium and the fine. So medium and fine are very similar. In the graphic display options, we've looked at these tools before, but in this view, this perspective section view, building section view, we can change the transparency. But look what happens when you change the transparency. Right away, the cast shadows and the ambient shadows will gray out. So it looks nice sometimes to have this transparency, and you can even have transparency per element. This one is for the whole view. But as soon as I turn the transparency off, I can put a check mark in cast shadows, and I can change down here how much cast shadows that I want to show inside this view. The ambient shadows are nice because they give kind of a softer glow to the shadows. It seems to put a shadow around the corners of the objects here. And you can also lighten up your project a little bit if you'd like to show a little bit more sunlight here in this lighting panel. And of course, you can decide in the sun settings, as we've gone through before, if you want to bring the sun from the top right or top left, or click on still and bring in a specific location, day and time. I'll cancel out of that. We can also change the background, as we did before, to sky or gradient. Gradient will give you the option of creating different colors for the ground, horizon, and the sky, depending on the view. We can bring in an image. Maybe we want to bring in a sky in the background. You can stretch it or use the original size and change the height. If we type in VG, as a reminder, we can go to the walls, the floors, the roof, and change the graphic overrides. So here I'll go to the walls and click on, for the cut pattern, the override button, and change this to a black or whatever color you'd like, and the pattern being solid, so that when I go back to my drawing, these walls become black. So I could have done that for the floors and the roof to show the section cut in this black, darker color. Now, unfortunately, in this view, which is still a camera view showing a section, under the Modified tab, we won't have access to the Join tools. We will have access to the line work, but it's not as clear as an actual wall section. When you use LW for line work, you can change your line work to invisible or thin lines. Now, in a regular section, if I was to go to a building section that's not a camera view, in this regular section that's not a camera view, I can use tools like this join geometry to join the walls and the floor and kind of get that smooth transition from one element to the other. And I can clearly use here the line work tool, if I wanted to make some of these lines invisible or even lighter, I could click on invisible lines, and then maybe I don't want to see them. I may have to click on it a couple of times, but then it takes out that line work. If I wanted to add line work, I could go to the Annotate tab and pick Detail Line and draw lines, hidden lines, medium lines, wide lines, and these are all controlled. The line weights here are controlled under the Manage tab. Under Additional Settings, you can go to Line Styles. In this Line Styles dialog box, I can see all of the different line styles that are here in Revit, but you can also create your own based on your presentation. These are the numbers that represent how bold your lines will look, and the pattern, the line pattern and color. If you select an element, you can right-click and go to Override Graphics in View by Element. So for this view, just this one element can have these graphic overrides. So for example, the transparency of this one object that I've selected can be modified and different than other elements in this view. This is the one setting that cannot be saved in the view template. If you want to take some of what you've created in this view, the settings, and apply it to another view. So it's kind of the last resort for changing some of the display options, because it's only going to be specific to this view, which sometimes is okay anyways. So you have surface patterns and cut lines that you can change, or halftones, whether it's visible or not. And here it makes for kind of a nice presentation. But for this view, if I right click over in the project browser, you'll see that you can create a view template from this view, holding those settings that you've just established, and apply different templates to this view here or over in Properties under View Template. It says None, so we can select from different views those parameters. Of course, turning your shadows on in any view is going to help the graphics, but slow down the drawing a little bit more.